Some people inherit money. You inherited a war your ancestors never survived. That's the kind of truth nobody prepares you for. And the wildest part, you didn't just survive it. You absorbed pain so heavy it would have erased entire bloodlines if it landed on the wrong person. That's not exaggeration. That's psychology and biology agreeing for once. Studies show trauma can pass through DNA like a family recipe nobody asked for. Yet somehow, you became the only one who didn't choke on it. But here's where things get interesting. You weren't supposed to make it out with your sanity, your softness, or your sense of humor still intact. You were supposed to break, disappear, shut down, or turn bitter. Honestly, the universe expected you to tap out by chapter 3. Even your enemies probably thought you were one inconvenience away from malfunctioning like a cheap phone charger. Instead, you transformed into something nobody predicted, not even you. Because when life threw unspeakable pain at you, you didn't dissolve, you evolved. You became a walking contradiction, someone who carried ancestral wounds yet refused to become a museum of suffering, someone who held enough emotional weight to crush a village but still laughed at memes at 2 a.m., someone who didn't just heal, you recalibrated. And that's what this topic is about. It's not just that you endured pain, it's that you absorbed pain in quantities that should have ended entire lineages. You took on emotional burdens that historically required entire communities to process, yet somehow you rose from it, not numb, not broken, just different, unexplainably different. There's a reason people look at you and quietly think, what on earth did they become? Your energy changed, your instincts sharpened, your depth got intimidating. Your resilience became something science can't fully measure and spirituality can't fully name. You morphed into someone who shouldn't exist on paper, but here you are, alive, evolving, and carrying stories that would send most people into early retirement from life. Most people go through life thinking they're simply dealing with their own personal issues, but you weren't just fighting your battles. You were wrestling with patterns that started long before you were even born. Your family didn't pass down wealth or wisdom. They passed down emotional loops. The same fears, the same toxic relationships, the same emotional shutdowns, the same just endure it mindset. Every generation repeated the same script because nobody had the strength, clarity, or courage to question it. You became the first anomaly in that entire sequence. Your pain hit differently because it wasn't meant for one person. It was accumulated pain, compounded interest from emotional debts your lineage never paid off. You felt things deeply, not because you were weak, but because you were carrying the leftover weight of people who didn't have the emotional tools to process what happened to them. The anxiety, the heaviness, the strange sense of why is this so intense? None of it was random. You were born with a code that said, break the cycle or be swallowed by it. And you didn't get swallowed. Instead of breaking down in the same familiar ways, you stopped and questioned everything. Why do I react like this? Why do I attract this? Why does this hurt so much? These weren't simple questions. They were the beginning of the algorithm collapsing. When you started analyzing instead of repeating, you disrupted the emotional structure your lineage had relied on for decades. That's why your transformation confused people around you. They expected you to follow the same patterns, the same stories, the same predictable behaviors. But you didn't. You became unpredictable in the best possible way. Your healing wasn't just personal. It was a rewrite. You changed the emotional software of your entire bloodline by being the first to face pain instead of running from it. You didn't pass the trauma forward. You didn't disguise it as normal. You intercepted it, dismantled it, and did the emotional labor nobody before you had the strength to even attempt. That's what it means to break a generational algorithm. You didn't just survive. You reprogrammed everything.